Hey guys, welcome back to the Daily Surrender. Today's episode is going to be a short one, and I'm going to be speaking some real truth into you guys from a place of working in the health and wellness space for almost 2 decades. I'm seeing something that's getting worse by the day, and it's something that I'm seeing in my clients. I'm watching it in the social media space and again in like the whole health and wellness space overall. And I myself have even lived in it. We're seeing this epidemic of people who are chronically exhausted and constantly searching, constantly scrolling. And it's not because healing doesn't work, but it's because people are stuck in this endless loop of trying to fix themselves. That there in and of itself has become the epidemic. And today I want to really lovingly, but again, very directly with a lot of truth here, call it out so we can get off of that constant hamster wheel of searching and scrolling and trying to fix ourselves externally and actually create change that lasts. So buckle up. So let's talk about the pattern, the hamster wheel, the endless loop of doing all the things, constantly searching, buying the supplements, following the protocols, listening to the podcast, buying into another program, hiring a practitioner after practitioner after practitioner. Maybe we're going out and we're doing all the modalities, right? We're running out and we're going to cranial, sacral, and Reiki and massage and somatic healers and acupuncturists. And we're all searching for the same thing, right? We're searching for essentially peace. We want peace in our body. We want peace in our mind. We want peace in our relationships. And yet people are staying more stuck than ever before. And then what starts to happen when people go out and they, again, do all the things is they begin to buy into the story that nothing works for me, like nothing at all. So then their story becomes, I'm broken, I'm inherently broken, I'm unfixable. And yet there's also this, well, I'm going to still keep trying. I'm going to throw something else at myself. And in some ways, we're testing to see if that story that we've started to write is actually true. But what if it's not true that you're broken and unfixable? What if it's not that nothing works for you, but instead that you've been out of order with where you're looking? You're looking in a lot of the wrong places. Here's the truth that most people just don't even want to hear. And it's part of our modern society's epidemic. You can't heal a problem that doesn't actually exist. And I don't mean that your symptoms aren't real. I understand the pain of having physical symptoms. Maybe you've got chronic gut issues, chronic migraines. Maybe your hormones are completely out of whack and you have excruciating periods, right? There's so many different, or maybe let's look in the mental and emotional space. Maybe you struggle with chronic depression, anxiety that just brings you to your knees. Like that's very, very real. And I'm not dismissing your symptoms. But what I am talking about is your belief that you are broken. That's the thing driving this entire cycle and this constant searching. Remember, we live in a very noisy world and we have media at our fingertips 24/7. That in and of itself is a pretty new phenomenon for us human beings. We're in the year 2026 and we haven't even had smartphones for 2 decades. Think about that. And in the increase of accessibility and online living, We're being marketed to constantly, constantly, constantly. So there's a lot of noise out there, and it can distract us from what I'm talking to you here about today. And it can distract us by having all of these external promises like, look over here, come over here, buy this, click on that. And it's keeping us, again, from what we're actually really longing for. I want to share a little story with you about one of my clients that I recently had a session with. I've been working with her really closely now for months. We've gone really, really, really deep. We kicked off our coaching work together with a freedom journey that's my name for an intensive 6-hour session where my client goes inside, and I say that very metaphorically, inside the medicine. We use MDMA to quiet the amygdala, lift the veil, so to speak, so that they can take a look at what is buried into their subconscious mind, the limiting beliefs, the programming, the constructs, these repetitive thoughts, what's there that they weren't able to fully see, or maybe they saw them, but they couldn't really touch them and understand. And so they were stuck. They're stuck in this endless loop. And so we kicked off our coaching journey together, doing a freedom journey. And then we've been coaching regularly ever since so that she can really integrate and start to create the change that she seeks. And she really sees her patterns. She sees so many of her beliefs that have held her back, and a lot of the conditioning that started very early in life. And when she started with me, she came with a lot of honesty. And she's not someone who had never worked on herself before. She had worked with a functional medicine health coach. She knows how to eat. She knows how to support her body. She knows conceptually what's healthy, but she also realized that she's not doing it. She's not doing it with consistency. And there were things under the surface that were creating a self-sabotage type of a dynamic, almost like she was dragging around this anchor that was pulling her back. And one of her biggest goals in entering into this deep work was to thin that veil between her and the divine mind of God so that she could grow in awareness and she could grow in intimacy with Him, with God, and have that relationship where she was being guided by the Spirit instead of living a very reactionary life, being guided by perhaps her thoughts or her feelings, or again, the conditioning. So instead of bypassing what was really bubbling up for her and what her soul was essentially knocking on the door, asking her to take a look at, she got really curious. And this is what she's uncovered. She uncovered, and this is part of what she was sharing with me in her latest coaching session, this underlying belief that she's not worthy. So that underlying belief was driving how she treated her body, how she's been treating her body. So she recognized that her pattern of disordered eating that has been there for the majority of her adult life was stemming from this inherited belief that she wasn't worthy of a nourished body, not worthy of feeling really, really vibrant and well, not worthy of caring really well for herself. And while some of that was a reaction to the way that she was raised with her parents, very focused on external appearances, that underlying belief that took form really became what ran the show for her, what's been running the show for her. So she recognized, like, it doesn't matter how much education on diet that she has or could continue to obtain. It didn't matter what gut healing protocol she was going to follow or has even in the past. If that self-sabotage is still present for her, it's always going to contradict what she believes that she deserves. So that is something that can be applied to every one of us. So say you have a goal to improve your overall physical health and your body's got these symptoms, and the symptoms are trying very hard to get your attention. You've got excruciating joint pain. You have migraine headaches multiple times a week that lead you to pop a lot of NSAIDs, and you know intellectually that that's not good for your liver and that's not good for your gut, and that's probably contributing to the gut issues. But where the headaches come from, and you run out and you go to a practitioner's and you get a massage and it helps a little bit, and you go to chiropractor and it helps a little bit, and you do cranial sacral and it definitely helps, but then you like boomerang back, and you're taking all the supplements to support mitochondrial function and good blood flow. Like you're doing the things, anti-inflammatory, right? You're doing all the things, and yet this pattern is not really completely leaving. Are you inherently broken? Is that the belief that you buy into? Or have you not yet really taken a look and gone inward, really taking a look at the beliefs that you're walking around with? Or perhaps there's metaphysical roots and trapped emotions in you that are longing for you to see and sit with. And this is where I'm going to get a little bit fierce here with you guys. Something I'm very passionate about. I've been working with people in the health and wellness space for almost 2 decades now. So I've seen a lot, and I understand a lot of our human patterns. Again, I have been caught in them myself. Some of you who are on the other end of this podcast listening are not stuck because you haven't found the right answer. You're stuck because you're avoiding doing the real work, the deeper inner work. You're bypassing the humility that it takes for you to sit with yourself and ask questions. Really honest questions like, where am I in my own way? Where am I choosing comfort over truth? Where am I staying in patterns that I know are not serving me? Where am I refusing to actually take a look? Because it's easier to buy another protocol. It is actually easier to sign up for another workout regimen or get monthly massages, or maybe you're going weekly for massages. I went the other day to a facility by me, a wellness center that does some lasers and uses some lasers for various things. I went inquiring about doing that for my skin, and it was a pretty cool conversation that I ended up in with the owner as she looked at me, and it was almost funny because we don't always see ourselves as other people see us. And she must see a lot of women in there who go there before they've worked on the underlying things, before they've really shored up their foundations, before they're eating really well and moving their bodies well, and they're hydrated well, and they're well nourished, and their nervous system is really calibrated as well as it can be, and all the things. And she said, "You look a lot healthier than the majority of women who come in here." I said, wow, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I greatly appreciate that. And in our conversation, obviously, we entered into what I do for a living and my experience in working with people. And she was telling me a story about a client that gets regular treatments, and I'm talking very expensive treatments that help to bring more lymphatic flow and break up the fat on the body and flush the fat from the body. I mean, it's pretty cool that there's technology that does that. And she said, the client is addicted to sugar, and she will lay there during her treatments and sometimes eat candy. And I thought, wow, wow. Wow, she first of all must feel like crap, but she's spending so much money on the external, trying to fix the external, but she's avoiding going to the internal. And she even said to the woman who was working on her, I know I shouldn't be doing this. I know that sugar is really inflammatory, but I just can't stop. And I mean, there's a lot of truth to the fact that sugar is addictive. We do know that, right? There is a biochemical addiction going on. I mean, it's given us instant dopamine hit, but what's underneath it? What's underneath that? Does she value herself? Does she feel that she is worthy? There's so much there. And that constant chasing of the external without going to the internal is avoidance. And it's absolutely not serving her, and it's costing her a lot of money. But again, we're all on our own path, and we're on, in our own lanes, and we're at different speeds on the freeway. But being honest with ourselves, just just asking ourselves, even the question about where am I self-sabotaging and getting curious. Maybe we're not even ready to do anything about it necessarily, but if we can start with awareness and start to create the change in our awareness, that's the number one step to creating change. It's like first thing is becoming aware. Then we can start to see even our choices that we may be able to make differently than we've been doing. So the ease in searching externally and having quick fixes versus facing ourselves, I believe, is keeping people stuck in this endless loop, and we're not finding freedom. What are we doing? We're becoming more and more and more tethered to this world. And that's not the direction we want to be going in. We want to be going in the other direction. We're in the world, not of the world. And let me tell you, it is quite a time to be alive. I know me, for myself and my family, we do not want to be tethered to this world. Freedom is the ultimate goal for us in all areas of our life. It's our top value, and it's only ever going to come with honesty. So, surrender, which is the whole theme here on this podcast, it helps us with when we're aware and we're being truthful and honest to get off the hamster wheel of that constant searching. So maybe you recognize that you've got this really limiting belief that you're not worthy. So you start to, you bring awareness to how you self-sabotage at that. Maybe it's through your eating, or maybe it's staying up really late on your phone and scrolling, and then you sleep really crappy, and then you're in a bad mood and you are more inflamed, right? But you recognize that staying up late at night and scrolling, and maybe even scrolling and snacking at night, is a form of self-sabotage because there's an underlying belief that you're not worthy. And you start working on that. Can you imagine how much in your life changes from going there, going inward instead of outward? How much time, resources, and energy you end up saving yourself, even though doing that is really uncomfortable, right? So healing, real true healing, requires a lot of patience. It requires a lot of persistence, and it requires us to be very honest. We were never designed to fit into someone else's box. That's another reason why, if we're not going inward and we're not learning ourselves and we're not understanding our own unique divine design and how God wires us and how He created us to be in this world, we're going to constantly be trying to fit ourselves in other boxes that are not a me-shaped box. So we can think of the round peg in a square hole type of analogy, right? So we can be shoving our round peg in square pegs of different diets. Maybe it's different self-care routines. Maybe for somebody, it, really, really works for them to go to the Amazon and do ayahuasca journeys. And then you're like, well, it worked for them, then that's going to work for me, right? But we're never going inward to see if that's the path for us. And then we go and we spend all our time and our money and our resources, and it's like not the thing. It's not right for us. So then we think, oh, I'm just unfixable. You, my friend, on the other side of this, wherever you're listening to it, I was going to say screen, basically, right? I want you to know that you were created with intention. You were created with intricacy. You were created with a very unique divine design. And that peace that you're seeking, that peace, that is the longing of your soul. Because again, ultimately, that's what we're all looking for. We want to know that we're loved. And from that place, there is peace. It is not ever going to be found in becoming someone else. It's going to be found in learning you, learning your unique body, your unique inner voice, rebuilding trust with yourself. And that right there is the work. So instead of asking, what should I do next? What's the thing I should do next? I want you to sit with this. Where am I avoiding myself? And then take one small step towards truth. Maybe that looks like sitting in silence instead of reaching for your phone. It will be uncomfortable, and it's supposed to be uncomfortable. If you're uncomfortable, you're on to something. Keep at it. Lean in. Maybe it looks like actually feeling the things that you've been numbing before you grab the thing. And I'm not going to name what your thing is. You know what your thing is. But before you grab the thing, to numb yourself from feeling, because that feeling is uncomfortable. Can you pause and just let yourself feel it, even for a minute? Maybe it looks like being really honest about a pattern that you've been repeating, like my client when she came to our session last week and she said, I've been noticing a pattern and I'm being really honest about it. And she actually, I'm going to tell you this too, she actually said, I need to sit and observe it and feel it for a little bit before I even come up with the next steps forward. I'm like, awesome. Please, we have to feel it to heal it. Maybe it comes from choosing one aligned action and sticking with one thing. That's another thing that keeps us on this endless loop of constantly searching and trying to fix ourselves and heal. We don't stick with the one thing. I have seen that so many times in all of my years of coaching. If people were to just stick with the needle mover, the thing that started to create momentum for themselves and really, really integrate it into their life until it becomes something that they don't think about, they will change everything about their life. And then the next thing, they could pick the next thing and then stick with it, be consistent with it. Don't pile on 10 things at once or get distracted. We don't need perfection here. That's not what we're searching for. We're looking for consistency. It's not about doing more and more and more and more. It's actually opposite. It's less is more, but doing less really, really consistently. And honesty, let's make being honest with ourselves something that we're really, really consistent about. So if you've been listening to this episode and you're feeling it, maybe you're feeling it stir something up inside of you. I'm telling you, there is something in you that knows that you are ready to stop the cycle. You are done. You're like, I am no longer doing that. Just like this client that I just shared a little example from her journey with. When she came to me, she was done. Like she's like, I can't live this way anymore. It hasn't been a completely easy path. It's not supposed to be. It's really uncomfortable. But she is finding over and over and over again when she leans into the discomfort, when she sits in the discomfort, when she's consistent, when she's honest, change occurs. Transformation happens. Remember, we cannot transform until we experience something. And we're not going to experience something until we do. Right? So we can go into a space where we're constantly thinking about it, reading about it, listening to a podcast about it, but we actually don't take action and do because we're so scared and we're trying to avoid the discomfort. We want to skip to the good stuff, right? Like we want to get to the good part. You can't get to the good part without going through what feels like a messy middle, truthfully. This here is the work I do. This is the work that I do today in my coaching practice. I help people to go into their shadows. I have been brave enough to go into my shadows. I seek my shadows, not all at once. That would overwhelm me. But God is really gracious and kind and shows us our shadows in layers. And I have come to really, really trust the process, trust the soul's journey. And I love not sticking to surface level stuff. I really don't do that anymore. That's just not who I am. That's not the offerings that I bring to this world. I love going into people's shadows with them, not the quick fix protocols. It's just, again, you can go find them out there with other people, but walking with you as you really learn how to see yourself clearly and heal at the roots and come back into alignment with who you actually are, that's my jam. That's what lights me up. That's what gets me so excited to get out of bed every day. That's what gets me excited to record these podcasts for you so that I can share with you little glimpses of what this journey looks like and hopefully inspire you. If you take one thing from each episode and you're consistent with it, you can change. So if you're feeling a nudge inside of you that's like, I'm done. And I really, really would like to move forward finally and get off the hamster wheel. I'm done searching. Reach out to me. I have a few openings for my one-on-one coaching support, my containers that I have to help you to really create breakthroughs that matter, that last, and do it with consistency. So you can book a soul body discovery call with me. The link is in the show notes. I'd love to get on a call and hear where you are and hear what your soul is longing for. We're going to look at where you are today and what's really going on beneath the surface and whether or not working together feels really aligned. So again, link is in the show notes. I'd love to have a conversation with you. A reminder, as we wrap all of this up, you are not broken. You are not broken. You are not broken. But you do have to be willing to let go of the version of you that believes that you are. That, my friends, is the surrender, and that is where freedom begins. You are not stuck because nothing works. You are stuck because you haven't been willing to meet yourself in truth yet. Until next time, my friends, keep the daily surrendering. Thank you for joining me on the Daily Surrender. If today's episode spoke to you, I'd love to hear your reflections. Send me a message, share this with a friend, or leave a review. Remember, true healing and freedom come when we let go, surrender, and trust that God's way is so much better than our way. Until next time, my friends, keep surrendering, keep rising, and keep walking in peace.